Hello and welcome to another Learn Python tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how you can make a shopping list program. The shopping list program is an excellent program, and it shows you how you can use procedures to create multiple screens within your program. And it has two benefits. Number one, it means you can have different screens, so it's a better user interface, better experience for users. And also is because we use procedures, it separates your program off into little chunks, so it's easier to code, easier to read, easier to maintain. In your GCSE project, if you're doing this for GCSE, or you'll find you'll get more marks for doing less work, which is great. So let me give you a quick demonstration. Here we go. If I open up my program, there's my shopping list program. At the moment, my program's got 2 items in the list, which is good. If I want to view my items, I can just click on it, and there they are. I'm going to go buy a dog and a cat, apparently. Press enter to go back. If I want to add an item, I can click on add, type in the name. Let's go buy a chicken as well. There we go, item added. And now if I go to view my list, it's all there, which is great. Also in my program, I'm going to show you today how you can save to files, to set text files. So if I were to go to quit and quit the program, normally in Python programs at this point, all the data would be lost because they were stored in variables. But because I've saved it to a file, if I rerun the program and now go to view my list, my items are still there. Also, if you notice here, we've got different screens and a menu, so you can go between the little text menu, you can go between each screen. Let me show you also the delete screen. So if we go to delete, it will offer me the option to delete one of the items, which is good. I can pick, let's say, pick number 1 to get rid of the cat, and it will delete items, and then it will show the smaller list. Also, if I type something in random that's no good, it tells me that's invalid, especially, and it works regardless of where I put letters or numbers. So that's good. That builds in robustness to your program, which makes it a better user interface. And again, if you're doing it for GCSE, it's going to get you more marks for the same amount of work. There we go, good stuff. Excellent. So there's our program. That's what we're going to do. I will be programming in Python 3, 3.5 or 6, I think it is. I don't know which one I use. Let's have a look. Let me just Python 3.6. There you go. As you can see there. But it doesn't really matter. Any of Python 3s, it's all going to work. There's nothing particularly spectacular about the code I'm using. I'm going to be coding using just typing it up in Notepad++. It's not a particularly good editor, but I use it for lots of different things, so it's nice and simple for me. It'll work just as well in idle, but you find that you probably struggle in idle to do your multiple screens, because it doesn't always clear the screen. So I tend to use the command prompt to run my programs and Notepad++ or something similar to edit them. So let's get started. What we're going to do? Well, we're going to need a few modules. Use a few modules. We're going to use the OS module. That's what we use to clear the screen. I'll show you that in a bit. We're going to use the sys module. That's what we're going to use to exit the program. And we're going to use the time module, amongst other things, to sleep. When we sleep for a second after we've done, and it displays something. Good. So let's get started and let's set up our first screen. Now we're going to have 4 screens. We're going to have a main screen. We're going to have an add screen, a view screen. In fact, actually, let's just make sure we do this Python style. There you go. A bit of camel case. Add screen, main screen, add screen, view screen, and we're going to have a delete screen. So there's 4 screens that we're going to have, and each of the code regards each of those screens are going to live inside of those procedures. But how do we create those procedures? Well, what do we do? Nice and easy, because we're going to define them. We put def and open close brackets, and there we go. In fact, before we do that, let me just save my file. Save as. And let's call this shopping2.py. Save it as a Python file, and make sure if you're using Notepad++, make sure you actually go down to the bit where it says Python. There we go. I've already got a shopping list, so I'm going to be calling mine shopping. Let's call it shopping list2.py. There we go. You could just call yours shopping list. There we go. Good. So we got a main screen, and we got to do that. There it is. You can see it's recognised it. And for the moment, we'll just put after the main screen, just put pass, and that needs to be indented. And we need to do pass because you can't have an empty function or empty procedure. So we need to put pass after each one. We will delete that pass in a bit, but we'll just put that up for the moment. And we need to do the same for each of our screens here. So there's our add screen, pass, keep saving that, view screen, pass, and our delete screen. There we go. Good. And then pass. Okay, brilliant. So we've got 4 procedures set up, which is going to be, each is going to be a different screen, which is great. And what we're going to do here, to start each screen, what we need to do is we need to clear the previous screen's text. So we need to effectively delete all that text off the screen each time we run that. And that's why we've got the OS module, os.system, and I'm using Windows, so it's going to be CLS. If you're using Linux, then it's going to be clear. So don't CLS there or for Windows or clear for Linux, which is good. There we go. Same for all of these screens, so you might as well cut and paste that. There we go. Don't know why it's not auto-indenting, it's been a bit weird today. So we've cleared each of our screens, and what we'll do now here on the main screen is we'll do our starter banner at the top. I'm just doing a nice simple starter banner for the moment. Print, and then space along, let's put shopping list. There we go. Shopping, no good. Shopping list. There we go. Shopping list, print, and then we'll do some more. There we go, good. And now we'll get rid of that pass because we don't need that. It's a good idea to put these passes in, even if when at the start of your program before you start doing anything, because otherwise it will crash when you run it. But once you've added stuff to there, you can delete that. There we go. So we'll get rid of those for the moment. So we've got those lines there, which is good. Shopping list. What I'll do now is I'll paste those and just change the name. Add screen. There we go. There we go, good. So we've got our 4 screens set up. So let's see what they look like. Let's just have a go at that. Let's see what the main screen looks like. So if I go main screen, then we'll wait a second, and then we'll do the add screen. You'd never do this normally, but just to see what they look like, wait a second, view screen, I'll wait a second. So now, hopefully, if we save it, let's save this file, shoppinglist2.py. Yes, that's saved. Good. Now, if you notice here, this is the folder I'm in here. Desktop, Richard. When you open up the command prompt to run this, if you're doing that on Windows, you need to right-click on the Start menu and go to Command Prompt. You probably start the command prompt here in the wrong place. As you can see here, I'm not in the desktop folder, I'm just in the Richard folder. So if I go Python space shoppinglist2.py, it will say it can't open the file because we're in the wrong place. So what we need to do there, before we do that, is we need to change our directory, cd space desktop. So we need to go to the desktop. There you go. So the desktop folder. Now, There you go, good. So it's brought up the first error. Invalid syntax, what's that, line 26. There it is, you can see I've just missed off the bracket there, so I'll save that again. Main screen, what line's that? 32. Oh, again I've just missed it off, I don't know why I've just missed off both of those. Save it again. Oh. Main screen is, main screen. Add screen. View screen. There you go. So there's our main screen, our add screen and our view screen. They're all there, which is good. They're looking fine. So what do we need to do? Let's just get rid of that one. Let's just leave main screen. There we go. So let's go to our main screen. So what's the purpose of the main screen? Well, our main screen is all its job to do is it welcomes you to the program. I'm also going to get it to tell me how many items are in my list, but we haven't got a list at the moment. And it's going to give me a menu below there to where we can go take options to go to different screens. So how do we do that? Well, nice and simple. First of all, before we can actually find out, display how many items are in our list, we need to have a list. So I'll just call my list SL and we'll do some square brackets. So right at the start of the program, outside of this function, if you notice it's not inside of this function, inside of this procedure, right at the top of the program, we create it there. And we're going to look at why that needs to be in a minute. So there's my shopping list program, and now what we need to do is we need to say how many items are in that list. Well, at the moment there's none, but what we can do now here is we can put your list contains, there we go, and then what we do now is we come out of the string and we use the len function to find out how many items, or the length there is of that list, and therefore how many items are in that list. And then go back into the string and put items. There we go, good. So it should say, at the moment it should say your list contains, and it'll go to that list and it'll say 0 items, which is good. Brilliant. And what we need to do now is we need to give them some options. So please choose from the following options. Let's have a look. We'll do add to the list. Delete from the list. View the list. And quit the program. There we go. So we've got 4 options there. If they select A, then it should go to the add screen. D goes to the delete screen. V for the view list. And Q should quit the program. So what we need to do now is we need to actually ask them. So choice equals input. And we'll just do choice. So they get them to choose one of those options. And then we just need an if statement to choose which one we're going to. So if choice dot lower equals a and sorry, what we'll do actually is we'll use the dot lower, and the reason we're using the dot lower is because they might type in A or they might type in A, capital A. Now you could say if choice in A add, you could go all the way through this really long list of different options if you wanted to, which would work, but there is a much easier way. And what we do is we say, okay, I tell you what, take whatever they've given us, make it all lowercase, and just take the first letter. So if they type in add, doesn't matter if they use capitals or lowercase, it will just change to A. And that's what we do here. We do, okay, if choice.lower, so that makes whatever they've typed in lowercase. And then we use the 0, which says go and get us the 0th item, or the first item, because computers count from 0. And then we can do like that. So now if the first letter of whatever they've typed in is an A, then we can go to the add screen. And that is how easy it is to go to a different screen. If they've typed in that, you just type in here, just put the name of the function, the procedure that you want them to go to, which in this instance here is called add screen. There we go, so do the add screen. And then we could just now just go along and add our other options. So we've got A goes to the add screen, D goes to the delete screen, and just keep going through basically. Oops. Keep going through there. V goes to the view screen. Oops. Just done that wrong. Q. And now the Q doesn't go to the quit screen. What the Q does now is the Q quits the program. And that's why we imported this sys module here at the top. Because what we can say now is we can just say sys.exit. And that will leave the program. It will just quit the program there and then. So what have we got options here? We've got if they do A, they go there, D, V, Q. So we've got the 4 valid options there. But what do we want them to do if they don't enter a valid option? If they type something wrong in, or they just press enter? Well, what do we want them to do? Well, actually, in this instance, we just want it to go back to the top of the main screen and just reload the main screen. So, and it is literally that simple. Just go back to the top, call the screen again. But, so, what it's meaning here is it works really well for the user, because if they press enter, you want it to just keep asking them. But it also means that your program is much more robust. It's a lot harder to break, because it doesn't matter what they either enter the right option, in which case it goes to the right menu, or they enter the wrong option and it just loads it up again. So there we go. So let's just save that now. Now, the main function here is called main screen, which we've got there at the top there, main screen, which means that we have to run this function at the start of the program. And the way we do that here, if you look right down at the end, is after all of our other functions have been defined. Let's give it a bit of space down here. Right at the very end, we call the first function, the first procedure function, whatever you want to call them. We call the first procedure here to make this bit run. There we go. Let's just save that. And let's try that now. So there you go. So now it goes through to the shopping list. It goes through the main screen. It's got all of the options. If I, oops, there you go. Okay, so I've got my first error there. And what it's saying here is string index out of the range. And that's because here, at that point, it tries to get the first letter of what I've just entered. But of course, I just pressed enter. So it didn't work at all. So it broke. What we need to do here is we need to say, okay, if the length of choice, if the length of choice is greater than 0, and then we'll move all of those in, and then we'll do else there, main screen as well. Okay, so actually there's two different little paths. So if they have actually typed something, the length of choice is greater than 0, then it will try and do all this business here. And then if it still can't find the menu options from what they've typed in, it will reload the main screen. Otherwise, if it isn't longer than 0, then you've got to go straight back to the main screen anyway. Let's try that again. There you go. So now it works perfectly. There you go. So now if we go to the A add screen, it should take us through to the add screen. There you go. It takes us through to the add screen. It then jumps out of the program because obviously the add screen yet we haven't put anything else in there, but it's almost ready to go. But let's just have a look at that shopping list. That's okay. A few things though. This is all a bit squished up. We want a bit of spaces. We need some new lines in between each bit. So what we'll do now is your shopping list contains. We'll just do a couple of \n's there. And that'll give us a couple of empty lines there. We'll give us one more / here after there. And then before the choice, we'll give us a \n. That just keeps, it's just a very shorthand way of adding some new lines. Let's quit the program. Let's run that again. That's much better. So we've got a better, slightly improved layout for our program. Shopping list. How many items? Please. Actually, I'm going to let's put a \n after there, which will give us a new line there. Just means add a bit more new line space. Let's just try. Let's quit that and run that again. There you go. That's better, isn't it? So your list contains no items. Please choose, etc., etc. Good stuff. And we'll move on to the add screen next. Okay. So here's the add screen. There's the main bit. What do we want the add screen to do? Well, here we will need to say enter the name of the item that you want to add. So let's do that again. Let's put a few empty lines in there. Please enter the name of the item that you want to add. Full stop. And then we'll do okay. Item equals input. So we've got to get the input. Do another \n before it's an empty line before it asks for it, and we'll do item. There we go. So here now, what will happen is it will ask for the item to be added, which is good. Then what we need to say is okay. If the length of what they've just entered is greater than 0, then we know it's a valid item. In this instance now, what we need to do is we need to add it to the shopping list there. But there's a problem. Procedures here, anything inside of a definition, at the moment, their scope of anything that you add is only inside of this function. So if I try to add to the shopping list now by doing sl.append brackets item, which in theory should add to this shopping list here, it won't actually add it to the list. What it will do is it will just try to add it and then just give up, I think anyway. And the reason being is that this here, it only has a scope, what's known as scope, of inside of this function. It only affects things that happen inside of the function. As soon as you leave this function, all those changes will be undone. So what we do here is we need to say, okay, this shopping list that we're going to try to append to here is this one here, the global shopping list. And we need to globalize that variable to say it's going to, so we just do global inside of the function where you want to globalize, global SL. And that means that now any append that we do will affect that list. There you go. So if the length of the item is greater than 0, then we just append the item. Otherwise, we know that they've just pressed enter. Oh, actually, we will, let me just do, don't press enter to return to the main menu. There you go. So if they enter what they've entered is greater than 0 in length, then append it to that list. Otherwise, we'll just go back to the main menu. So main screen. There you go. That's good. That's all okay. So we add the item to the list. It would also be a good idea to let the user know that you've done that. So print item added. And then that's the item added, which is good. And then we'll just sleep for 1 second. That's good feedback. There you go. So let's try that. So hopefully now, let's run that program again. Oh, sorry, actually as well, if we have added an item, you've got two choices. You could send them straight back to the main screen, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to send them back to the start of the add screen, so that if you successfully add an item, you go back to the add screen to add some more, but if you press enter, you go back to the main screen. Let's try that. Let's see if that works. So add, Bob, item added, good, Bill, item added, excellent. If I press enter, there you go. Now it goes back to the main screen, and you'll notice that it says that it contains 2 items, which is perfect, brilliant. So that's the add screen for the moment, pretty much done. That's all sorted. Let's move on to the view screen. So what has the view screen got to do? Well, all it needs to do, the view screen, is it needs to get all the items from the shopping list, and it needs to display them. So because we're going to be displaying each item in the shopping list, the easiest way to do that is using a for loop. And we can say, okay, for each item in SL, we will print the name of the item. We'll print the item. So print item. And that should print out all the items in the shopping list. There you go. And then what we'll say here is just do a couple of new lines and a couple of new lines there. Press enter to return to the main menu. There we go. There you go. So what's going to happen now, I hope anyway, is it will print out each item in the shopping list. Once it's finished printing out all the items, it will then do a couple of empty lines. It will ask you to press enter to return to the main menu. It will wait for you to press enter, which is what we've got that empty input there. Once you press enter, it will just push you back to the main screen because it's done its job there. So let's save that. That's all saved. Let's just quit that. Let's run this again. So as you could see before, it has now deleted all of the items in my list. We will later on in a little while look at how we can save it to a file, so it stops that from doing that. But for the moment, let's just add to our list again. Bob, Bill, Fred, and then we'll go to view the list. There you go, brilliant. So there's the view screen. It's displaying the items in the shopping list. And then we'll press enter to take us back to the main menu. A little hint while you are coding, when you're adding things to list and you're just testing the program at the first start, okay, don't spend ages typing in chocolate cake, fruit pudding and stuff like that. It's just going to take ages to code. Okay, you're going to waste time. So don't just type in some random strings just to make sure that it's working. You can add nicer stuff later. This is probably especially important as well, as we haven't done any file saving yet. So anything you type in is just going to be go anyway. But there you go. So there's the add screen, and that's now working fine. So, sorry, that's the view screen done, and the add screen is also done. So let's move on to the delete screen. Now here's the delete screen. Now with the delete screen, in order to delete an item, first we're going to have to display our list, and by each item in the list we're going to have to give it a number, an item number, so they know which one we want to delete from. So we can say, like, do you want to delete item 4 or 2 or something? So we're going to have to use the same things before, this printing out each one, but we're going to need to do a bit of a count as well to keep count of where we are, where we're up to. So we're going to start our count at 0. It makes things easier because Python lists, if you say delete item, let's say the first item in a list, actually in Python that's item 0, because computers start counting at 0, or certainly Python does. So I start my count at 0. It makes your programming a little bit easier. So count equals 0. And what we could do here is for each item in the list here, what we'll do is we'll print count, comma, item. So it should print, in fact, actually we'll do count, comma, and then we'll do a dash, comma, item. There you go. To make it prettier. And now what we need to do is count equals count plus 1, so that it counts up each time. So the first time in that for loop, it will count 0, then 1, then 2, all the way through. There we go. And then once that's all done, print. What number? What number to delete? There we go. Choice equals. There we go. So we get the number. That's okay. And now what we want to do is, in fact, let's just save that first and let's make sure that's working. So let's have a look. Let's quit the program, start again. Oops, choice equals number. Oh, put that inside of speech box. So now if we go to add to list, because we've got nothing in the list. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And now if we go to delete, there you go. So it's given us 3 options. Do you want to delete item 0, 1, or 2? Which is great. What number to delete? So how are we going to delete the item? Well, the good news is that we know here 0, 1, 2, those item numbers there actually index in the same way as a Python list. So if we go to the list and delete item 0, it will get rid of the first item. So what we can do now is we can say, okay, if the length of choice is greater than 0, then what we need to do here is we will do, this time we're going to do what's known as a try and except clause. Try except is really, really powerful. It stops your program crashing if what you try to do doesn't work. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and delete like item 1 or item 2. But because obviously we're getting user input, we don't know if they're going to input valid values. So we'll just try and delete an item depending on what they've given us. And if it doesn't work, then no worries. We'll just print invalid item and they can try again. So here we go. So if the length of choice is greater than 0, we'll try and do what? Well, we're going to try and delete SL brackets choice, not choice, int choice. There you go, SL int choice. The reason we need this int here is because choice, when you input, Python inputs as a string, and the del function in a list requires an integer, a number. So what we do is we take whatever they've entered, we change it to an integer, and then we try and delete whatever integer value that they've entered from that list. Again, it's not going to work properly at the moment because that list there is outside of this procedure, so therefore it's out of its scope yet again. So we're going to need to use the global SL because it won't delete it outside of the procedure. So let's put that there again. So, and also this is quite powerful actually because it copes with quite a few different errors. So if you type in the wrong number, it will still try and do it and it will fail gracefully and it will tell you that it's failed and it'll ask you to do it again. If you type in a letter, it will still work. So if you don't type in a number or you type in the wrong number that's outside a list, it's still going to work. And that's what we do. We try and do that. Or if that works, by the way, then here at the bottom we can put item deleted and then item deleted, sleep for a second, and then we'll go back to the delete screen. There you go. If it should we do that? Oh no, actually, hang on. No, leave that there. Don't go back to the delete screen just yet, 'cause it'll cause problems. But try and do that, which is good. Otherwise, print invalid number. There we go. And then we'll time.sleep. And then, so here, inside of it, if they have typed something, you're either going to say, okay, yep, we've deleted it, or we're going to say that, no, hang on, invalid number, do it again. But either way, outside of this try except, we'll go back to the delete screen. And we'll just go back up to the top. The reason we don't want to put it inside of this try except, as I said, this try except is really, really powerful. It means that it'll actually carry on, you'll go back into this function, but you'll still be in the try except, which means that it could all go completely wrong. It will keep, it will stop any kind of error happening, which you don't want. So just like that. So if the length of the choice is greater than 0, do all of that, happy days. And if it works, go back to the delete screen either way. Otherwise, if they put an empty value, then you just go back to the main screen. And that now, hopefully, and I say hopefully, should work. So, let's have a look. Let's add to the list. Good stuff. So we should now have 3 items in the list. Let's try deleting an item from the list. If I press enter, oops, something's gone wrong there. Length of choice. Oh, whoops, that's why. Needs to be like that. Slight error there on my parts. So let's try that again. Add to the list. There we go. Then, yeah, 2 items, delete from the list. So now we've got 2 items. Which number to delete, 0 or 1? Let's try deleting item 1. Item deleted. And there you can see it now works. If I press enter, it will go back to the main menu. And hopefully now if I put some random things in there, it will just say invalid number and it will ask me to do it again. So there you go. So now our program is looking quite robust. We can add to the list, we can view the list, we can delete from the list. I've just noticed that view the list has got a bracket there, some parentheses. Good. Which is all good. So we're almost done now on the entire program. There's not a lot left to do. The only thing we need to do really now, the main thing, is we need to save it to a file. So how does that work? Well, there's lots of different ways you can do that in Python. For this program, I'm just going to show you the simplest way. Now, the simplest way isn't always the best way, but for GCSE, that sort of level or beginner level, you're going to be fine. Now, this is saving a one-dimensional list. It's a simple list. You know, you just have like cat, dog, mouse, a simple one-dimensional list. If you're saving a simple one-dimensional list, the easiest way to do that is just to save it to a text file, like cat.txt. So what would that look like as a text file? Well, let's say, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to save it now, but if I did save it, it would just look a bit like this. There is a text file, and you would save that as a normal file on your computer, and Python can load that. But how are we going to do it using Python? Well, in Python, what we want to do is we want to say, you know what, let's try and load the file. So we would do f equals open, and then the name of the file. So let's call this shopping2.txt. Yours can be shopping.txt. And when we load it, we're going to want to read from the file, hence the R. Okay, we're going to open the file and try and read from it. And then what we're going to do is for each line in that file, for each line in F, we're going to append to the shopping list. Line.step. There we go. The reason we got this .strip bit at the end is we want to strip off any extra new lines or spaces at the end of each line. Otherwise, it will start appearing with extra spaces for some reason inside of the program. So it just strips off the extra bit. We'll see that in a bit. In fact, I might delete that in a bit, and I'll show you what it looks like if you don't do it. So that's pretty much what we do. We create an empty list, and then we open this file, and we try and add each line in that list to the file. But there's a problem, or there's potentially a problem, because the first time you run this program, shopping2.txt isn't going to exist. So your whole program would never work. After the first time you run it, of course, it'll have been saved and things will keep getting added to it. But the very first time you run the program, that file will not exist. So therefore, the whole program will break. So how do we do that? Well, what we need to do here is we need to say, okay, let's try and load those, just like we did on the previous one. We'll try and load those, which is okay. If that doesn't work, then we'll just pass. There you go. So, nice and simple. We try and load the file. We try and go for each line of the file and add it to that list. And if that doesn't work, then we just ignore it because we just created an empty list here. There you go. So now, that should try and open the file. Let's just quit that. Let's make sure that's working. There you go. So it's tried to open the file. Seems to have tried to open and load it, which is good. But the only thing we need to do now is we've opened the file to... in fact, we'll just f.close that as well. F.close to close the file once that's done. Once we've opened it, so it's all read through. It's okay. Of course, it won't read anything from that file because there's nothing in there yet anyway. So, how do we save to the file? Well, let's have a look. When we're saving to the file, when we open the file, there's only one place that we're going to open. It's here. But when we save the file, there's two places that we might need to save it. We're going to need to save it when we add to it, and we're going to need to save it when we delete from it. So I could type the code in each of those functions, that function there and that function there. But we're programmers. We want to make this really efficient. So what we'll do instead is we'll just create a procedure called save the list. There we go. We'll put all our code here that we need to save the list, and then in each of the functions where we want to save it, we just call that function. So f equals open, similar to before, f equals open, what's it called? I don't know what it's called now. Shopping2.txt. Shopping2.txt, this guy, there you go. Now, this time, we don't want to read from it, we want to write to it. So we use the W at the end instead of R, otherwise it won't work. And then what we do is, okay, we go through each item in the shopping list that we've got, and what we do is we write to that file, item, and we write the item to the file, but we also need to add a \n to it as well. The reason we're adding a \n is because otherwise when it writes to the file, like cat, dog, mouse, it's going to do cat, dog, mouse, all on one line, which is no good. What we need to do is say, okay, after each item in that list, just add an enter, a new line. There you go. So for each of the items in the shopping list, you write it to the file, and then after you've finished that loop, you do an f.close. F.close really means save. If you think about in Microsoft Word, you might type all the things onto there or on here or on, you know, I could type all those in, but until I click save, it's not going to save it to the file. In Python, it's a similar sort of thing. Until you do the close, the f.close, it doesn't actually do anything. So there you go. So now we've created our procedure called save list, which is good. And that means I can use that save list now in any of our functions, our procedures. So where do we need to do it? Well, here in the add screen, after you've appended the item to the list, which is good, item added, what we'll do there is we'll just put that in there. So it'll add the item to the list, and it'll also save a backup to the file. Same with the delete screen, item deleted there. It'll delete the item, and then it will save a backup of the list just there. So hopefully now, save that, Control S, let's go here, let's quit. So let's see if this works now. So we'll run the program. There's no items in the list. Let's add some items. Dog, cat, mouse, chicken. And now it's got 4 items in the list. If I quit the program and run it again, there you go. It's still got all 4 items. So let's just make sure that the delete works as well. Let's delete the cat. Goodbye, cat. There you go. Done. Perfect. Good. And now hopefully if I press enter, it's got 3 items in the list. If I quit the program and then reopen it, there you go. It's now got 3 items in the list still. So, there you go. That's pretty much it. There is a full program. I'll put a link to the actual code. I'll do a GitHub gist of the full code, so if you need help with debugging, it's on there. If there's any questions or any suggestions or any problems, just leave me a comment in the video. But what we've got there is a fully working program. The basis of probably about 50–60% of what you need for a GCSE coding project. It's got use of loops. It's got use of definitions of procedures. It's got robustness, different types of robustness. It's got file saving. So there's quite a lot there. The majority of what you need for a project, a GCSE level project, in there. But it can be used for other things as well. This system here, a great command line system here that you can use for many different projects, or at least that framework you can use. Okay, if you like the videos, make sure you subscribe, and as I said, any problems, just drop me a comment. Thank you very much.